Hello and welcome to The Legal Question, a podcast by Let's Chat Law. I'm your host, Hannah-Mei, a data privacy solicitor based in London.
And I'm your host, Gabrielle, a pupil barrister based in Leeds. In this episode, we're talking about all things Let's Chat Law. We will share our personal experiences, how Let's Chat Law was founded, and our future plans for Let's Chat Law. We will also be answering a not-so-silly question from a listener.
So, in case you haven't heard of us already, Let's Chat Law provides a safe space for honest conversations about law, and we hope to provide a space for aspiring lawyers to be able to ask not so silly questions about their legal careers. Since 2020, we've organised online and in-person events for aspiring lawyers covering applications, careers, and also commercial awareness.
In 2023, Let's Chat Law was incorporated as a community interest company, which is known as a CIC. That means we are a non-profit company with an asset lock, which will help us in the future to establish our growth and also ourselves as a professional organisation in the legal industry. This year we are launching our website and also our podcast, which you are listening to right now. So Hannah-Mei, why did you found Let's Chat Law?
That's a great question. So I guess to answer that, I need to tell you a bit more about my background and my career journey. So I come from a non-law background. So I studied languages and business at university. And then I decided I was maybe interested in a legal career towards the end of my university, life studies. So in my final year, actually in my second year, I went to an open day at a Magic Circle firm, which has a swimming pool. And I thought, wow, this is great. I want to be a lawyer with a swimming pool in the office. And but then I kind of did some more digging. And in my final year, I tried to apply for training contracts and vacation schemes very unsuccessfully. And I then went away for a year to work, get some work experience, and then came back and thought, you know what, I want to commit to the GDL, the law conversion course, and a career in law. But when I was studying the GDL, I found it quite a isolating experience in some ways, especially coming from a non-law background and with not knowing many people who were in the legal industry. I didn't feel I could maybe ask people about, the silly questions like, what do lawyers actually do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, if you ever go to an open day and so on, people will always say, oh, every day is different. But what does that actually mean? I didn't know. So I wanted to, really kind of be able to ask the silly questions that I didn't feel like I could answer at the kind of formal networking events where people were there, all trying to get a job and talk about what was on the front page of the FT. So I just found that really isolating. And then in 2020, just before COVID actually, I discovered that there was a community of online legal community of lawyers, people, navigating their applications and their journeys. And then I started a Instagram page. And then from then, Let's Chat Law was born after I kind of networked and met two people who are now good friends. We co-founded Let's Chat Law to have basically, at the start, it was Instagram group chats, just talking about, careers and things like that. And then, since then it's evolved into online in-person events. And obviously you joined in 2021. So do you want to share your background and also why you joined Let's Chat Law?
Yes, so at the time I was at Northumbria University studying the LLM, which included the bar course, and I was obviously interested in law around COVID. I also discovered the legal community and had an Instagram page, which at the time I was dead embarrassed about, but now I'm fine with. I met a lot of people virtually, which was really nice, and got involved in a lot of webinars and the Let's Chat Law, group chats on a Sunday evening. I remember attending them multiple times. So then I joined in 2021 as a Clubhouse coordinator. I don't know if anyone else remembers Clubhouse, but that had maybe a couple of months of being
it's still
the
going.
Go thing. Wow.
But,
so that was what we went, we all did at the time. And gradually I've gone through, to events and podcast, and now I help with operations as well as managing the podcast and events team. So I'm really enjoying it. And yes, I'm loving every step of the way.
And do you want to tell everyone what your Instagram handle was when you first started?
Legally Gabby. And
some kisses.
Maybe I'm not going to share that information. Yes, but I remember being bullied for it, so let's move past that quite sharply.
Yeah. No, mine was the 411 blog, which was like very anonymous because that was my height.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's kind of like personal branding. It wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, I guess that kind of, yeah, that's our journeys, and obviously that kind of rounds off why we started Let's Chat Law, and which brings me to the legal question and this podcast. Why do we need to ask silly questions?
Well, we know that the importance of everything that you said, the reason why Let's Chat Law was created, and it was to provide a safe space for people to ask these questions. Often it's really awkward and you feel embarrassed asking professionals and people that have already established their career silly questions. Like, what should I wear when I go to court? What's appropriate to, am I allowed to have a nose ring in? You'll probably notice I no longer have a nose ring in.
I just realised.
See, because it's probably not appropriate for my job, and
Really?
I decided that was kind of a decision I was going to make after asking silly questions to people. So that's the idea, is it's a safe space where you can ask whatever question you may have to not only legal professionals, but also, the Let's Chat Law team, and co-students, co-pupils that are also applying. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, as I was saying earlier, yeah, I would go to networking events and I was like, I just want to know if everyone's nice and what trainees actually do. And yeah, it felt like you couldn't ask that because people, like, I remember going to one place and it was like it was an open day or open evening, and it was in a bar. I think it might be in the Slug and Lettuce in Birmingham, because that's where I went to university. And everyone was in suits and everyone was just like crowding. As soon as they saw a partner, it was like, a school of fish like surrounding, I don't know, some bait. It was like crazy. And that I was just there also as well, being shorter as well. I was just like, I felt like a small child, like lost in like a crowd or a concert. So I was just like, I don't want to ask these questions. And I think also as well, as Let's Chat Law has evolved, because we're in our 4th year as well, we're going to celebrate our 4th birthday this year. We've also realised that a lot of other aspiring lawyers and also junior lawyers feel the same way. They also want to ask these questions, but everyone's just a bit too scared to ask. And then you might feel the need to have like a slightly anonymous Instagram page like myself, where I didn't reveal my identity for ages, to kind of like share your story, when actually, hopefully, we should be aiming for more authenticity and transparency in the legal industry.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's all about that safe space. And I know I keep repeating it, but I think especially when you come from a non-law background or a low socio-economic background, or, like even different ethnicities or genders, you feel like you don't necessarily fit in. So when you're asking a certain type of person, questions that you don't feel are intellectual, then you start to question whether you actually fit in at all. And it is that kind of importance of asking those silly questions to avoid you embarrassing yourself in the future. I remember once I went into court in a tweed jacket thinking, wow, I look very smart, and obviously everyone else you have to wear black or blue.
Yeah.
Luckily I was in a mini pupillage, so
fine.
Lesson learned, but someone told me and they were like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And you don't know this until you actually go into court and you go through them awkward experiences. But we're trying to make sure that you avoid them awkward experiences, because it makes you feel like you don't fit into, the career. So that's the important part of it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it also gets, as we're both progressing, I think, through our careers, what's been really nice is that Let's Chat Law started when we were both at the beginning, and now we're kind of during, in the middle of it. And I think even now, as we're both started, well, I've finished my training contract, you're halfway through your pupillage. I think the need to have silly questions hasn't hasn't gone away. It's still there, and you just got to find maybe the right people or the right spaces to have ask those silly questions.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think that's the important part of this, is just having that, opportunity to make yourself feel maybe a bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
And, get them tips and tricks that might able to assist you to get to the stage that you want to be at. And like you said, like, we've kind of gone through the journey together,
Yeah.
and that's really nice. And I think sometimes when you don't have that, person that's also going through similar things to you.
Yeah.
Often your friends might not understand how difficult it is to go into the law and how much you have to sacrifice, and you might not necessarily be able to go out every night in university because you're too busy, studying
Yeah.
or preparing for exams, whereas some degrees don't necessarily need that commitment all the time. So I think it's really important to have, them legal friends. And if you don't have them in university, or you don't have them in your personal life, you can have them in this space. You can have them through the legal community.
Yeah, agreed. And also just having friends who are like at different stages of their careers, you can also obviously pay it forward and help those who are still applying, but also you can still ask people maybe who are 6 months or a year ahead of you questions about, their experiences. So yeah, it's always very, very helpful.
I agree. So now we're talking about the silly question. So let's go on to the silly question segment, which was created in the same spirit of Let's Chat Law, where we answer questions from the Let's Chat Law community. And then we're able to kind of give you our viewpoints and opinions on it, and hopefully then you don't have to ask this silly question again. So basically the question is, will this process get easier?
It's a great question. I think I'm gonna assume the process means like the general like career journey of becoming a solicitor or barrister, rather than the application process. That will be some other episodes down the line. But will the kind of journey get any easier? I think so far I think the answer is no. I think unfortunately, the legal industry is a very demanding career, and I think we all know that when we're applying and when we're studying and trying to enter the legal industry. It's not an easy, like, if I wanted an easy job, I would not be being a lawyer. I think there are plenty of other jobs that could give you like a perfect 9 to 5, and you just do your work and you log off and then you have to think about it. But I think with the law, and our careers as solicitors and barristers, I think you're always learning. It's very demanding. The law's always evolving as well, so there's always opportunities to learn. And I think that, I think even now I've qualified as a solicitor, I think that I kind of expected, like when you turn a certain age on your birthday, you wake up hoping you're going to feel like 18, 21, 25, 30, whatever. I was kind of hoping that at the day I qualified and like I officially could put associate, like, qualified solicitor on my LinkedIn, on my email signature and so on, I was kind of hoping that some kind of knowledge would be imbued in me, like, in my sleep. But unfortunately that didn't happen, and I don't think you're just going to wake up one day and you'll be like, oh, I've got everything handled. I think that it's always going to be a learning process, but I do think that's the interesting thing, and that's the thing that I enjoy about my legal career, is that I'm always learning, especially in the practice area of data privacy that I'm in. It's always going to be changing, and you're always going to be challenged. So I think that's what's exciting. That's what keeps me here. What about yourself?
I feel like that's a really good point to make, because you think that once you hit like a certain stage, I thought, oh, when I'm in pupillage, I'm going to know everything about the law. And it's just not plausible. Like, that's not the case. You will always be learning things. The law is ever changing continuously. There's always something new going on. And I think that's really important and exciting. But also, like, it's just not plausible. You are not going to be this perfect barrister or solicitor day one. It does take time, and I think there are difficulties in the career, and there always will be, and there are challenges. but I'm sure I've always been told that once them challenges, are no longer there, it's just not as interesting or not as exciting. You want them challenges to be there to keep you on your toes, to keep you being able to think on your feet and, find new ways around them. So I think that's important. One thing that I would say is that the challenges that you will be facing now in university or in college or in school will likely be different challenges that you face in pupillage or training contracts, or the challenges that you face as a solicitor or as a barrister, and vice versa. Like, no matter what, these difficulties that you face will continuously change, and you will just begin to be able to manage them in a way that, is more efficient and effective.
Yeah, agreed. And they might be a little bit greater. So, you just get better maybe at handling your workload, time management, stress levels, and so on, or like dealing with difficult clients. And maybe when you are at school or university and you're maybe like working a retail or hospitality job, that's stress level as well. But obviously it's a different kind of stress maybe in the legal career, but also your capacity to handle those things also increases. So I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think also as you kind of grow up in a sense, as the time goes on, you're able to kind of understand your boundaries as well, and how much work you can handle, how much work you can manage, and you also understand how you work as a person. Are you someone that gets up early in the morning and gets things done in the morning, or do you work late at night? And you'll figure out what you're most efficient at.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because Hannah's like,
yes.
But I don't know how people get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Credit to you.
Well, you do that because you're a barrister and you have to travel.
But sadly, I think that's the important part, is just that you will get to know first of all yourself, your career and your working pattern, and then also your boundaries and what you think you can accept and what you can't, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's always going to be an evolving process. And I think we were having a conversation yesterday about this. We were saying if you're not being challenged and if you're not learning, then you're probably like in the wrong room. You're in the wrong job, and I think that's always an important thing to remember.
Yeah, I think I like the idea. Someone's always said that, if you're the best in the room, you're in the wrong room. So you're not challenging yourself. You don't want to be the best. You want to continuously learn from other people, and pick up skills. And I think that's important, because the more you're keen to learn, the more you'll actually pick up on tips and tricks and advocacy styles or whatever you're interested in, and you want to be a better advocate, a better barrister, a better solicitor. So trying to challenge yourself is important. And I think, going back to the question, will it get easier? I think that's just a difficult one to answer. It's probably not going to get easier, but the challenges will be different.
Yeah, definitely. You can find Let's Chat Law on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and on our website, where you can sign up to our newsletter. The links will be in the show notes of the episode. Goodbye, and thank you for listening. We also want to thank Betty Maxine Umuteka, Elif Mutlu, Shrinity Murugeshan, and Josh Gauthop for producing and editing this episode.